I think this road has been a bit lonely. How do I explain that? Because it's not lonely like how a lot of people just feel lonely because they don't go out and make friends and they're
Yeah.
online, which honestly we should talk about that too. But I'm a solo entrepreneur and you are a solo entrepreneur. You live with a roommate who is also an entrepreneur, so maybe that will affect your answer to this question, but you pretty much own your marketing agency. Everyone who works for you doesn't live near you. You're not
Yeah.
going into an office. You didn't go to college, which means you missed out on probably the most social environment most people our age will ever be in. Do you ever feel like this route is lonely, or do you feel like you've had better or worse experiences because of this route? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely lonely, and I think I learned that while being in high school, leaving high school. So not only did I not have the quote unquote high school experience, didn't have a college experience either. I think it came down to me like weighing my pros, my cons. Am I going to be lonely? Am I going to miss out on some social opportunities? Am I probably not going to be around as many girls as I would like? Probably not going to date because I'm not going to be around girls. I'm going to have to move out at a young age to put some pressure on myself. All of the things you could think of as cons. The other side of it is that I get to travel the world when I want. I get to live in one of the most expensive places in the country. I drive a sports car. I drive a convertible. I have a bunch of great people around me. They may not be in my work field, but I have great people around me. Had some crazy experiences this year. All of these things I could only have without this. So sacrifice is a really real thing.
Mm,
Now, is there a better way to do it than I did? Absolutely. I think I went into it with the mindset of like, if they don't add to where I'm wanting to go, then I don't need them here right now.
mm,
And that's a completely false statement. I think there's people in my life that I believe are only in my life for very, very specific reasons. And sometimes it's because they need somebody like me and vice versa. I have mentors in my life where they sit down and they pour life into me. They help me think through my ideas, all these things. I'm not sure I'm adding too much value to their life, but they're adding a ton to mine. And so I sit there and I listen. All this to say is that sacrifices are going to need to be made. It's going to be a more lonely route. The less traveled route is usually the more successful route. How I thought about it when I was in high school, and I think there's still some truth to it to this day, is if I look at all these people and the actions that they're taking, and I just take those actions and I move it forward 5 years. Do I want to be that in 5 years? Sure. Does it seem like it's going to be fun if I go out and party with my friends every weekend like I'm in college? That could be fun. But 5 years down the line, do these things now have any type of value? I think not. And so I take just different actions now. So that's why all the time it's like you're so far ahead for your age and all these things. I just looked at people in their late 20s that were successful. What actions, what disciplines are they putting into place? Well, I can do that now. Then you take age out of it and there's actually there's age doesn't matter at that point. And so I just took pieces from what I saw other people were doing that looked like it was right and then put my own twists on them. But to go back to the initial question, yeah, it's lonely. Sacrifices need to be made. I think there's a right way to do it. Ultimately, there's a really right way to do it. Did I have to take some people out of my life that weren't adding anything and that weren't life-giving or bringing me closer to God or where I wanted to go? Absolutely. There's gonna be people that come and go all the time. There's brothers around me that I've poured into and they've poured into me, and these will be my brothers for life. And do they work in the same field as me? No. Do they add anything to my business? Absolutely not. Are they there when I'm having a hard day? Are they there when I want to go travel and I bring them on trips? Absolutely. Like, these are my brothers. These are who I ride with. And so, but do they add any money to my life? Absolutely not. And that's not what they're there for. Do I have friends that do, that bring me deals and I bring them deals? Absolutely. That's what they're for. We're not on that emotional level. It's more transactional, is what it is. But there's room for both. And I think sometimes people think it's one or the other. And I think there's absolutely room for both.
mm. Dang, that was valuable for me to hear. I also think that I've been on the flip side of a lot of what you're explaining. I mean, this podcast, literally, if I was giving you the elevator pitch, I would say the goal of my podcast is to change the way people measure success. Most people measure success by wealth metrics, money, possessions, achievements, and status. And the goal of my podcast is to change the way you measure success to soul wealth metrics, which are relationships and memories.
Yeah.
So like when you first started what you're saying, like, oh, but I could have sports cars or I could have this achievement over here. That's like, for me, it's a red flag based on my podcast statement. But that's the same thing I did, which was I'm going to drop out of school so I can have 1 million subscribers, so I can be famous. And then, I mean, I've overshared this story way too much on the podcast, but had a very specific situation which someone I was really close to was facing death. And I realized that if they had died, they would remember me as always choosing work over them.
Mm.
And then I realized, wait, it's not just them. Like even at home, I live with my parents, but I'm locked in my room every second of the day. Like I'm always doing work. I'm always doing work here. I'm always doing work there. And then I realized the things that I get from work, the peak achievements, only fulfill me for a little bit of time, but relationships fill me on a daily, day-to-day basis. So I realized I was going far in the wrong way. But what do you do then? You just run back and party with everyone in college? Because that's not the answer either.
Right.
And so I really like how you said you look forward and then, because let's just do that exercise. In college, I was in a fraternity. There was a lot of fun moments. A lot of those people who I was in a fraternity with, now they went from partying in college to living in a party town, and they work a job they don't really like, and they live so that they can party on the weekends, and they repeat the cycle over and over and over again. And without judging them specifically, I know for a fact that I would hate that lifestyle. So I'm so happy I left it. But the issue that I made when I left it is I thought about that quote everyone says, you're the product of the 5 most people you surround yourself with. And I took that way too personally in the fact I started deeming people worthy of my time. Like this person helps me, this person doesn't. Like don't talk to him, talk to him. And the reason I now have a really big issue with that is because it builds pride. It's not what God wants you to do. God wants you to love everyone. But it also says don't hang around fools, don't hang around adulterous women, don't. So it's a really interesting balance. And